Camera there. All right. Hey guys, sorry about the late start. It's dealing with some technical difficulties as usual. But I'd like to welcome
Yeah.
everybody to the first Revolutionary show. I have a real special guest here tonight, but before we get into to my guest, I just want to kind of explain to my decision on why I'm doing this and what basically you can expect from my little show here. But I've always talked about being a voice for the voiceless, and I want to continue to do that. I was able to motivate people in my district. Almost 2,000 people so far have voted for me, and I really appreciated it as a congressional candidate. But I also understood the value of being able to have exposure, being able to have a network so people can learn about the candidates that are actually running, and they don't have the money, and they don't have all the means and
Yeah.
resources. So I
Hmm.
decided to, come up with some kind of haven for all those people. But at the same time, I also want to give a lot of recognition to what goes on behind the behind the lines, behind the candidates. Because most candidates, it's not just what you see is the one guy out there, and you can assume he has a team that's really supporting him and everything. But not every candidate has those luxuries. So, and at the same time, the candidates that do have these volunteers that are totally amazing that do it for free. Most of the volunteers that you see for these other candidates have the money to pay them. We don't have the money to pay these candidates, and they come out here because we believe in our messages. And those are the unsung heroes. So I wanted my show to be able to give them a little bit of light, be able to get them on board and hopefully show them uh, how to get motivated and inspire some more people. And that's
Yeah.
what we need. We need more and more people to get motivated to run for office. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, you ran for too high, too low." Whatever it is, if you feel you have something, if you have an idea and you want to bring it to the table, don't let people talk you out of it. Most of the people that told me not to run weren't even in my district. And the people that were in my district that wanted me to run believed in the message because I never had one before. I'm a lifetime member of the district. So, all that being said, I'm ready to move on to the show and bring in my first guest. I'm really excited about getting the show on the road anyway. But the whole point is to give exposure, to talk, to learn about these candidates that most of you may not heard of. Also, to learn about what you could possibly do to get involved. So when you see someone and you're like, "Oh yeah, I want a revolution, but I don't know how." Well, on my show, I'm going to show you different ways of how you can revolution. If you only know how to hold a sign, guess what? My man over there, he's been up all night designing like 80 signs, and he's so tired that he might not even be able to make the event. Are you willing to hold one of those signs? Because you don't even have to do it. So this is the kind of stuff that you may not know that you can contribute that is important because someone will read your sign and say, "Wow, that was a strong message on that sign," and they might want to hold that sign too with you next time. And this is how you network, you develop, and you grow. And my three R's, my three big R's: recruit, revolt, and repeat. So this show is going to be surrounded by those R's too. And I hope to give a name to a lot of people that work behind the scenes. I really need to give them a lot of recognition. There's a lot of people, at least around here in the LA area, that I really want to be able to point out to and show, hey, these are the people that are fighting for all of us. You may not know who this person is, but after tonight, you need to be able to hear why, so dedicate why you may have seen them in 8 or 9 different events or actions. And now you know who that person really is, and you can reach out to them and follow them and ask them questions too. So all that being said, I'd like to welcome you to the Revolutionaries, where we don't drop bombs, we drop mics. And what that means is it's a peaceful movement. My party says it, people, planet, peace over profit, and that's exactly what I represent. I'm not in this for money. I'm in it to make it better for all of us, so we can have a better way forward. Because right now there's too much divide, there's too much hate, and there's too much nonsense. We need to all come together. And all that being said, my very first guest is Rodolfo Cortes. I'd like to welcome him right now. Here it is. Rodolfo, how you doing, bro?
Hello. Doing well. So you can see me. I'm on the screen now. Okay.
I see you.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Miguel. I think this is a great idea that you had, to have this show and invite all sorts of people, because we do need to, keep going. Especially, I feel like this is a new phase in the movement. Bernie, inspired a lot of people to get involved, and a lot of, when all of that happened, and then, some people became candidates. Now we're still continuing the second part of that first kind of candidate cycle. So it's very important. It's the first time that we're doing this, right? So, but this has to be a long-term, very long-term effort if we're going to get anywhere. So Miguel, before we go any further, I want to ask you, where exactly on Facebook is this showing up, just so that I can share, because I don't see it
It's
on.
not. It should have been coming up on the Revolutionary page.
Okay. Okay, is that where it is?
Nothing.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I thought it was in the South Bay Greens
No,
site.
that was just my post for today. Hey, so very first show, this is grassroots. We all know about grassroots, so and I'm sure it's something that we'll be talking about for sure. uh, Grassroots candidates. We don't get the luxury that Alex Jones has, with the nice digital boards and the American flag waving behind me, Eagle suit by and landing on my shoulder or something. But what we try to do here is bring the actual message. We don't try to color in or paint it pretty, or because it's not pretty. Politics is not pretty. But we got people out there willing to get dirty, and all the good reasons. They don't want dirty money. They just want to get dirty to get the money out. And again, let me give it back to Rodolfo.
Exactly. Yeah. Well. So that's great. That yeah, we're a grassroots group, a grassroots video team here. So if people watching could just make sure to share it on their page. I'm just sharing it on my personal pages, just so we can get some more people in here.
Try sharing
Uh,
on my page too.
yeah, I'm sharing it. Yeah. Um,
This is like I said. I don't have a studio here filled with people around me or anything like that. This is me and Rodolfo right here. We're gonna have some conversations, a few laughs, but some serious discussion on how to get things done.
exactly.
Before we get any more into the political spectrum, I'm sure people want to know, some of your background and everything. There is a doctor in front of your name. Maybe you can, give us a little insight on that.
Um, sorry, there was like a cutoff. You mean about me?
Yeah, I said, we see there's a doctor in front of your
Oh
name.
yeah.
So maybe you could give us a little insight on how you earned that, because we all know it's not easy to get a doctor's title. Even
Yeah,
though the
sure.
hangover, they make fun of the dentist, you still got the title.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So I think this show is going to be really great and useful to really, kind of get to know more people in the movement, because I feel like a lot of people, obviously we see each other, commenting there and there on Facebook, and everyone seems to have different opinions and all that, but I think it's really helpful to try to get to know people and where they're coming from. So yeah, so me personally, at the time that you were over there in Philadelphia, Miguel,
Mhm.
working for Bernie, working to make sure he was the nominee. I was still in school. I was in graduate school, and I would try as much as I could to help out. Even though it was pretty hard. I was finishing up my dissertation, what I got my doctoral degree in. But it was such an important moment that I needed to be out there. I knocked on a lot of doors in the East Bay, where I was living at the time, in San Francisco. The predominantly Latino community in Fruitvale. And people hadn't really heard of Bernie, but we needed to bring forward his movement, of course. So that's what I was doing, kind of during that time, when I was also trying to earn my doctorate, which thankfully I did succeed. So yes, I am. I got my PhD in psychology, in child development in particular. So I did a lot of research in graduate school on how people, like teachers, parents, really any adult can treat a child in this way or that way, and how they can then that experience really helps children to become generous and helpful and altruistic. So specifically, what I did was, I kind of discovered that, if there's like these little simple games called reciprocal games that people can play with young children, and oftentimes do, like rolling a ball back and forth, or just kind of engaging in this back and forth that kind of builds a relationship. So what we found in my studies with my advisor was that, if we did just a little bit of that kind of back and forth play, we would actually end up triggering helpful actions from the child, not just towards us, so specifically towards me. I was the one doing the play with them, but then we could get them to be nicer to other people that they didn't know that just come into the situation. So, a little kid, plays in a very particular way with an adult, such as myself, the experimenter. But then someone else who they haven't seen before, they come in and then they drop a bunch of pens. Well, what does the little child do? It turns out that very often, after getting this kind of nice, warm, positive relationship building with one person, then they come to help that second person. So that's kind of what I discovered in my PhD thesis, which is why I got the privilege to call myself a doctor. So yeah, not a medical doctor, the research doctor. So yeah, thank you for asking about that, because it is very important, and it kind of it's about my perspective. Like I'm trying to bring in a science focused perspective. Now that I'm a candidate, and the specific field of science that I decided to focus on, psychology, is something that's very useful and relevant for everyday life. If people had more understanding of each other's psychology, we wouldn't be in so many negative situations, right? It's like, parent-child, but, between parents or partners, there's a lot of things that we can do to change our mindset about how we are interacting with people or how we think about people. And oftentimes we don't even consider that people are people, right? So, we need to make sure that.
Well, it's funny that you are a doctor about child psychology. It's very important. Now that you brought it up, I think it'd be amazing for you to give us a little insight on what you think the traumas that are occurring right now with the separation between our, the children at the border. Because we all know that it doesn't matter what party you put on, how rich you are, right? This is just inhuman as hell. And it's demoralizing that such a country that's supposed to be so civilized can find it somewhat okay to even write laws and even condone such a thing. And right now the whole world is looking at us like bastards. So I'm just curious on a doctor's standpoint, how you think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, yes. So this is actually one of the biggest fields of all of psychology. It's called attachment. A child has a very basic need to be close with someone in early life. And this, they just benefit from that. If you disrupt a child 3-year-old and, all of a sudden their primary caregiver is no longer there, just in regular life, that's a big, huge trauma, right? I mean, the caregiver could just, they're just no longer around for whatever reason. And that scars children for life. There's been studies. If people want to look into it, like Professor John Bowlby is famous for these studies in the 1950s and throughout the 60s, 70s, Mary Ainsworth. These are the psychologists that really showed that children need that warm, positive, sensitive relationship, which I know, right now, maybe in our day and age, we take that for granted. But it's very important to realize that it wasn't something that people understood for a very long time. 50, 60 years ago, you could go to hospitals and they would immediately remove the child from their mother right after birth, and then the child would be isolated. And then there was this general cultural trend where people just kind of encourage children to be off by themselves and be raised by people that weren't their primary caregivers, and to have multiple primary caregivers. But that's a big mistake. Children need at least one stable person to look out for them. Doesn't have to be the biological mother or the biological father, or it can be just that, but they need somebody to look after.
Mm-hmm. There's a question by Linda Anderson. How will you use your educational research to shape your campaign? Which I think is a good question. Kind of, goes with hand in hand with what's going on right now, the climate.
Yeah, great question, Linda. Thank you for asking. So to shape the campaign, that's a great way to put it. So actually, recently I had a mother reach out to me, and she's in one of the cities that I'm trying to represent. And she was asking me about how she could help her daughter with school, because the daughter just kind of feels that she can't do it. Maybe she's, quote, not smart enough. But so that gave me a great idea, and this is now what we're hoping to plan. So I think bring that knowledge to parents and to schools. So I'm going to be organizing at least one session, hopefully within the next few months. So Miguel, I think the video went down on the Revolutionaries page. It says the live video will never mind, it's back. Okay, so we're back, everybody. So
I never lost it.
Yeah, so Linda, thank you again for your question. So yeah, no, we're going to be reaching out to parents, and we're going to have sessions on the fact that the brain is a muscle, and it gets better with use. This is something that a lot of people are not understanding, don't know about. But the brain is just like any other muscle; it gets better with use. So people are not born with a certain level of intelligence. That's just not how it works. Rather, people spend time studying and trying this and that. And some people say, oh, well, after 10,000 hours, you're an expert or something. But every child can get better at school in reading, math, etc. And college students can get better. So in my campaign, I'm going to be trying to have those kind of sessions, just as a community service, if not directly a part of the campaign. But if I was elected, I would certainly try to have as many community-oriented events around education as I could, because so in my district, it's an impoverished, polluted area. For the most part, we have the lowest, I believe we have the lowest rate of college attainment in the state. So there's a lot of room for growth, and a lot more kids to hopefully get into college and go on from there, and improve the community in so many ways as a result of education, because of course it is very empowering for our entire family. So thank you for your question, Linda.
So about your district also, we all know that the homeless thing is it's one of the things I campaign daily on heavy nail, because I can't go across the street without seeing what a terrible mess we've been put in here in California. So I'm guessing that you're probably dealing with it too in your district because there's a 70% increase in the state. And we're probably going to see more with all these NFL stadiums and all this stuff going on right here. There's going to be more and more people being left out on the streets. So just curious, how are you tackling the homeless situation?
Yeah, so in our area, it's not quite as bad as it is, I think, in other areas of LA, and I think that's because, I mean, we're not there yet. It's going to get bad, but we're not at that stage yet, and I think it's because uh, just because of the nature of the area, because how I've said it's just very polluted and impoverished. I think it's also at the center, so it's far from where gentrification tends to happen, like at the beaches or the more mountainous, or like the central LA area. It's not a hip area. So we are not witnessing gentrification quite as badly as other areas, but it's starting. It's definitely starting. But we have witnessed the displacement. I don't think it's necessarily as a result of gentrification, but probably just rising rents. I've had people in one particular city, Huntington Park. I'm sure you know Miguel. Huntington Park had never really experienced a homelessness issue, but now it's all up and down the main business lane there, Pacific Boulevard. There's starting to be tents, and people are getting worried because the rents are out of control, and it's a ridiculous situation, right? It's one of the richest cities in the world, and yet we can't seem to be able to get it together. But yeah, I mean, of course, there's multiple plans that we could have, right? Like other cities I know have had small little houses, tiny houses, right? The tiny house movement. Yeah. And one figures that at least tiny houses are, better than no houses, or and at least they're cheaper than a big huge house. But no, I think we ultimately need to be getting people into housing. So I know that. So I was actually hoping that you could tell me and our audience here more about, because not everyone may know, because you ran on a great idea for housing. So you're pre-finance home loans. So I'm wondering, could you explain to the audience, and so we could, make sure we to cover that?
Yeah, I know we still gotta sit down so I can get you fully detailed, but yeah, Rodolfo agreed to carry on my proposal for the pre-finance home loan idea, which is um, proposing a bill where we want to take 20% of the foreclosed homes at the same banks that we bailed out and we should have jailed them. Um, they took advantage. They took these houses. They did these predatory loans. A lot of old elderly folk got taken advantage of. It was just very, very dirty, and the property values were out of control. And it was the only way people can afford houses. But at the same time, they got them into these houses and they took them away. So we want 20% of these homes, and we want to get people that are in debt with bad credit, but steady jobs, been working for 5, 10, 23 years like me at a job that proves that they have income. So this is the middle class. This is the middle class that always gets the least cards or no cards at all. And we want to put them in homes. So we put them in homes. We leave a $30,000 equity in there to protect the bank. And and we make sure all the houses around these homes don't lose more than 3% of their value. They'll be protected by the bill. So this is just a way that we can get people in homes with the debt completely paid, right, in the house, get the moral value up, get the credit scores up, give them opportunity again, give them their piece of the pie, because that's what really the bottom line is. Everybody wants a little piece of the pie. And there's people that are guarding the pie, they don't even want you to look at it. So this is a way that we can do it. No raising taxes will be involved. So the conservatives love that. Conservatives also are scoring not so high in their FICA and need houses themselves. So this is a bill, this is a plan that works for everybody. I don't think anybody in any party would think this is a bad idea. To put people in homes, make them happy again, debt free, and they pay for it themselves. Because all we're doing is asking the bank to do their darn job and loan the money. And within 2 or 3 years, these people can refinance and that bank will get paid in full. So the creditors get paid in full, the banks get paid in full, everybody gets paid in full, everybody will be happy. Now, if you don't pay your house bills and you end up getting foreclosed, hey, Rodolfo did everything he could. He passed the bill, you put your in there, but you got to do your share. Now, if you don't do your share and you lose the house, there's just $30,000 worth of equity where this house will fall in the program again, but the bank can recover the loss and still profit while all the creditors still got paid in full. So I mean, I think it's a almost sure proof proposal of getting people into homes. And there's more details to it. Obviously, there's going to be guidelines. There's going to be qualifications, but we don't want to make it so strict that it's just a fake proposal either. So that's basically what my pre-finance home loan's about. And Rodolfo said he's willing to carry it
Yeah.
forward, which is a win for us. I already said that my campaign was your campaign, and this is proof of it. So if this bill passes, that means even though I lost, we all win, and that's great. So
Exactly. Yeah, no, that I love that, Miguel, because when we're candidates, right, we're putting ourselves out there. We're putting out our ideas that we hope stick in some way. Because they have to stick. We can't keep living under this system. Like, I mean, just the housing issue, where housing is so insecure and people are deadly afraid of losing their shelter. It makes no sense, right? Like, there's like no shortage of wood or of cement. We can build houses for people and we can make sure that they're affordable, all that. So there is absolutely no reason for us to just keep people living in the street. It's inhumane. It's everything that we should not be as a country. So, yeah.
Hey, Linda has a great question. I think this is an amazing question, actually. The
Great.
Democratic Party and its corporate donors will fund your opponent's campaign. What is your fundraising goal, and how are you planning to raise funds to reach voters in your community?
Yeah. This is a the big. Sure. Thank you. Yeah, of course, this is a core issue. So yeah, the Democratic Party has unlimited money, just as the Republicans do, because they're the business party, right? And in fact, they do spend a lot. We're a little bit lucky in our campaign that actually my opponent has not seriously campaigned. I want to say for 20 years. Yeah. No, there's been no campaign this year. You can check her FEC records. There's been no campaign activity. Well, no, she's paid one consultant and the payroll taxes with that consultant. But other than that, there's really nothing. She doesn't have a campaign. She just, she has coasted through victory all this time. All these years, essentially just on her name, because her dad was previously in the seat, so it's a famous last name in the area. So where does that leave us? So far we've raised around $5,000, and so for those $5,000, we got almost 9,000 votes. So during the primary, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's a little bit more than 50 cents per vote. It's great. And I think we spent our money in a very wise way. Most of it was actually spent for just ballot access. But then we printed out flyers and things like door hangers and signs and put them out at strategic locations, and it just kind of worked out. Now, of course, the path going forward is that we kind of need to multiply our efforts. If this time for the primary, if I could calculate it, I think maybe we reached maybe we reached 5,000 voters. I think maybe we reached 5,000 voters. So with that, if we could, and we got 9,000 votes. So, so maybe the word spread, but also people are also fundamentally tired of the incumbent. So that helps out. So this time, I mean, we have a lot longer to campaign. I mean, last time the we were really on the ground only for a month. So this time, we're at 4.5 months. So we just need to be out there. And I will personally be knocking on essentially every single door in a couple of regions in the district where a lot of voters are found. On every door, I've already knocked on, I want to say, about 1,500 doors. And it just kind of adds up. You just knock and you leave your material. You just talk to people, and then So the fundraising. I hope it'll just we just have to keep going. It's not even that expensive, when you have people that are willing to knock on doors and stand outside stores and post signs on businesses, and businesses that are willing to do that. It's honestly not even that expensive. It's just that we just need to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I plan to come out there and knock on some doors with my boy right here, man.
Thank
Rodolfo
you,
and
Miguel.
we were in the same slate. For those that didn't know, we were a congressional slate of four: Rodolfo, myself, Kenneth Mejia, and Angelica Dueñas. We were the four Greens in Los Angeles running as a slate. Coincidentally, Los Angeles did get hit with the 120,000 voter purge. So I mean, it's not just because the Greens were coming; there's Democrats coming too. But out of all our progressive candidates in Los Angeles, you know, two out of the four Greens made it, and that's Rodolfo and Kenneth. And then we have one Democrat that made it for assembly, and that's Maria Estrada, which is, one of our sisters that, we fight with too. We did plenty of battles with Maria. And the thing that, Maria's district, that's the one district where all the parties came together over the issue, which was the single payer health care and then the recall Rendon, and Maria was there the whole time. So that district was waiting for the leader, and they got a really good one with Maria. So we're very proud of her. We're glad that she's up there, and she's making all the noise that she is because she totally deserves it. And I will be out there knocking the doors for her too. Because this is part of the revolution. If we don't work together, see what made her district such a strong district, and all those voters came out is that district was informed. It was informed by cooperated effort of all of us agreeing on the issue. It wasn't about which party you elect. We all get on the issue. We all don't like it. We all came in there. We informed. So now that they're informed, we got to go in there and take the stuff even more. And we got to keep doing what we did to get it there. And the same thing what we're going for. If we can get the same people that are working for Maria or half those people to come over and support Rodolfo, because in the bottom line, it doesn't matter that they're green or blue. I always called it the turquoise coalition when we worked together, and the turquoise coalition worked. And if there's any proof of it, it's right there in Maria's district. There was a turquoise coalition, and there was a socialist that came aboard, and everybody was working on that district. And as long as we continue to do that in all our districts, we'll get more progressives in the race. Rodolfo has a really good chance of beating us incumbent right here. And the incumbent thinks he's just going to slide right in like Democrats usually do in California, with little resistance or any resistance at all. And they claim to be the resistance. But we all know that those leaders aren't the resistance, or else we wouldn't be out here fighting so hard. Or, we'd probably enjoy our normal lives because we'd be able to enjoy a normal life. Now that everybody's struggling, everybody's looking at being the next homeless, that's why we're running for office. So it's a big part of what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's really amazing to kind of look back on, kind of how we got to this point. I mean, yes, you're right, Miguel. So the only progressives left, I believe, in LA County that made it after the primary are, myself, Kenneth, and Maria. And we're both we're all three of us are in this little, I mean, it's central LA, right? It's downtown, and that's kind of Kenneth, and a little bit around downtown, and
I
then
call it the West Coast Triangle.
The West Coast Triangle, yeah.
Like the Lakers.
Right. Hey, by the way, can people hear you when you're back there? I think maybe I'm not sure that they can. So
yeah, I try to skip
so
up a little more. How about now?
Yeah, no, but because you're not showing on the screen, right? I think if you show yourself on the screen, then they'll definitely hear you because I think.
Yeah, Yeah, I just let you take over here.
Okay.
Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, no,
You hear
I'm
me?
just saying, just put yourself on the screen, Miguel. I think that'd be better because
Uh,
it.
well,
All right.
this show is about you, man. So
All right. All right.
I'm not trying to take
All
over.
right. All right. Fine. I'll just keep going then. Yeah. So it's great that that we made it and we're here, and yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, I think a lot of, I mean, after Kenneth's second race, we were looking, everyone was looking for what to do. And one of those things that I think the movement broadly centered on was, what Anthony Rendon did, which was, keep us from single payer in California. So, of course, this was a very big issue for a lot of people, including myself. Like, I mean, I would say so. Neither of my parents have healthcare, and they're getting to that point in their lives where they desperately are going to, need healthcare. We need healthcare for our older people, and
Can you see Sam's message?
I can. Yes, it's long. How about an hourly wage? I know it will be going up to 15%. With that being said, by the time it will go into effect, prices for gas, food, rent will be going up. Okay. I know in Los Angeles, for a hole in the wall for rent, it is, yep, over 1,000. For a living wage, it would have to be at least 20. 15 is not a living wage. We found out that when Bernie Sanders talked to people. Yeah. I didn't see the rest of the message. But yeah, no,
I'm
you're
sorry.
right. No, you're totally right. Yeah, $15 is not enough for Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean this. I mean, the fight for 15 is a national fight, and maybe people, for whatever reason, they decided to stick with that number. But it really should be locally calibrated. So yeah, Los Angeles, a living wage would be maybe $20, but it feels like it would be closer to 25, for example, for me, if it was like a family with a
It depends
child or
how
something.
close you are to the beach.
It does, yes. um, yeah, no. So we need to boost up those wages. I mean, yeah, wages have been, we always see those graphs on social media, right? They've basically been stagnant since the 70s, and that's because, well, the bosses, kind of, the CEOs have kind of refused to increase wages. Back in the day, they did increase wages, but somehow it kind of, things fell apart in the 70s in terms of that. So no, we need to get back to that era where people have a living wage, where someone who is maybe driving a tractor or whatever it is that they do, however it is that they're working for our society, they need to be able to. Hello, Rosie, I see you're waving. Um, so they need to have the money to be able to send their kids to college, just as they used to. We used to have a society where people could afford basic necessities and enjoy time off and go on vacations. People don't go on vacations anymore unless they're in a very small segment of society, which I think the Atlantic recently labeled them the 9.9%. It's like they're not the top, but they're a segment that is just comfortable enough where they can still have a decent standard of living without suffering in any way. So we need to get back to that model where regular families can afford to go on vacation. It's insane how much people have to work just to be able to put food on the table or keep the shelter. It's unbearable. People.
The cheapest Disneyland pass right now is $700 for the season pass. $700.
Yikes.
I'm a family of four. Good thing my dad I would have to pay for it, but think about that. It's $2,100 if I'm gonna be. And this is the cheapest. This is Southern California, with all the
Yeah,
blackouts, or where you get more blackouts than days that you actually get to go to the darn park. $700, but yet they're barely about to get their employees into the $15 minimum wage. I
I
mean,
know.
and I understand Star Wars Land is coming around the corner and stuff, and it probably costs a couple $1,000,000 in material to build, but they're spending billions of dollars on that thing. And the lawyers, I mean, not the lawyers, but the architects, and The smaller teams are the ones that get the most money, but the guys that are out there doing the harder labor, they're getting the cheaper end of the scale. So yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, the money thing is totally off. It's hard to afford a living these days. So we definitely have to
Yeah,
raise the minimum wage.
yeah, I mean, I remember, when I was a kid in the '90s, and Disneyland, I think, was like $25, and actually that was still a little bit expensive if you were a minimum wage worker around that age, around those years, which my dad was. So it was a struggle for us to get to to Disneyland, but thankfully I did get that memory. But the kids these days are not getting the proper tools that they need. They need to be able to go to, say, a summer camp, but summer camps are increasingly privatized. They're expensive. Parents can't afford just buying a book for a child. It's an unconceivable, ridiculous situation. Honestly, we're committing. The fact that we're letting prices soar so high without wages increasing and without public spending, it's a crime against ourselves. We're committing national suicide. Every day that goes by, and more children are going to bed hungry, that's going to harm them for the rest of their lives. It's going to harm us. I'll say it again. We're in the process of committing national suicide through austerity, through price increases, through low wages. We're only really starting to feel the beginning of the horrible consequences of the Clinton surpluses and the Iraq War and all of those that came before, right? But now we haven't even truly felt the effects of the tax cut that the Republicans passed that doesn't benefit those that most need money. So we're hopefully going to find a way out of this horrible hellhole that we're in. But make no mistake about it, we're in the process of committing national suicide, where other countries are getting their resources, lined up to have a dominant role in the world, like China and Germany. We are committing national suicide. That's what we do every day. Whenever we ignore children, whenever we lock up people and don't give them educations, opportunities.
But part of it
Suicide.
is that we have an immigration problem, and it's a legal one because a lot of these people that were born in this country don't have a place to go. They literally running
Right.
around homeless and stuff. So that's actually what immigration is. When people
Mm-hmm.
leave the area because they don't have a place to stay or home or whatever, and they're looking for somewhere else to stay. Well, we have a legal immigration problem that's a lot more serious than any illegal immigration problem that they ever thought of to create. So if we're ignoring the homeless right here across the street, why would we think that we would treat anybody from any other country any better? I mean, these are American citizens that are getting spit on, ignored, walked around, and then we built a shelter, and they don't want the shelter near their house. They rather walk around them through these tents or through the feces. They complain about it. They're complaining about it every day. Oh, these homeless, homeless, homeless. Well, we give them the shelter. No, the shelter's too close to my house. Well, you rather walk around the tent. I mean, come on, at least you have a house, people.
Right.
These are not animals. They're not a lower breed. They're not, rejects. These are people that were once like you, that had living mothers, that had living fathers, that were dealt the wrong cards, that made the wrong decisions. And one day it could happen to you, and you may be on those streets, and you know regret every single time you look at those people as inferior to you. When they're all human lives too, that you just frowned upon.
Yeah. No.
Uh,
Exactly. Yeah. No. We.
I would say you want to get into some single payer,
Well. No. I just want to say
or you still want to touch
you're
on this?
totally right. I mean, well, we do need to our our society, if you can think of it like as a moral building, our morals are just falling apart, all of them. We don't have humility, right? We have a president like the one we have. We don't have any compassion. We have very limited cooperation. So people are forgetting to be human, in the sense that they're forgetting to be nice to one another. We're forgetting that people have a deep need, and should have a deep need to reciprocate, to be nice to one another. As I was explaining before about early childhood, my early childhood research. So yeah, exactly. So Rasek Serolf says, at a
Oh, you
distance.
saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. So Roybal, my opponent, is promoting suicide at a distance. Yeah, I mean, we have these out of touch people that we've somehow managed to elect, like Roybal. She's a multimillionaire who lives outside of the district. Classic story. You're familiar with it, with it, Miguel. So these people are totally out of touch. They simply are paid by corporations to vote in favor of legislation that then makes those corporations even bigger, even richer. Just a solid example, like the military-industrial complex. Everyone is familiar with this. What does that actually mean? It means companies like Lockheed Martin, and which makes the fighter jets, or Northrop Grumman, which makes the nuclear weapons. And they make a lot more things, but those are some examples. So they give money to people like my opponent, Roy Ball, and Maxine Waters, and all the rest of them. And then what do? They vote to give those companies more money to build more weapons of war. So while we in the community continue to struggle with no health care, or no food in a lot of cases, no shelter, all those other gigantic corporations are getting those handouts. So yeah, this is the process by which they're killing us, they're killing the community, and they're really they're committing national suicide. They're supposed to be the national leaders, but they're committing national suicide through their decision-making process. That's all they're doing. And that's why we need to absolutely take control. The people must take control. If the people don't take control, our society will crumble and perish, just like societies in the past. We need to take those reins of power, as other peoples have done in the past. Otherwise, it simply will not work out well for us. Yes, humanity is the key issue. Yep. We need to bring humanity back into our way of being, meaning, that we need that positive one.
Rosie said that, it's true.
Yep.
Rosie said that, it's true.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's crazy. So a lot of Republicans and Democrats, well, almost all the Republicans and about half the Democrats, I think, including my opponent, Roybal Allard, voted to fund ICE. So here is Roybal Allard, my opponent, saying, I oppose Trump, resist, 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 right? Just as Maxine Waters says. And Jimmy Gomez and Tony Cardenas, the other opponents that the Greens have had this cycle in Los Angeles. And, well, yet, apparently if Trump is so horrible, which, by the way, I think he is, why are they voting to give him more power? Why are they giving ICE, which is under his direction, more power, more money? That's what a bunch of them voted to do. Jimmy Gomez and Kenneth Mejia's opponent and my opponent, Lucille Roybal, they both voted to expand the power of ICE. And yet they have essentially the most Latino Chicanx districts around. I mean, the 40th is 86% Latino. This is Roybal's district. It's the most. I mean, the community is here. The people are scared because of ICE, and the people are trying to get rid of ICE. All these protests. And what does she do? She gives them more money. What really kills me is that the vote was completely symbolic. Completely symbolic. The Republicans didn't need any Democratic votes for that. But the Democrats nonetheless voted to give them that support. So that really tells you that the Democrats don't even care to try to pretend to give the people a symbolic victory. The Democrats are against the people. The Democrats are, in fact, the enemies of the people. That's the way they need to be defeated.
You know, and what Rodolfo means by that, he's not referring to the party base, because that's the one thing we need to
Yes.
clarify. You know, he's not attacking Democrats in general. He's talking about the leadership. You know,
Yep.
the people that are running the show are not representing us, and it's true. I mean, in California, our whole lives. I know Rodolfo's a little younger than me. I'll say a lot younger, but you know, the Democrats have been in power, and this is what we have to show. You know, I'm 43 years old. In my whole life, we have 10% taxes in California, the highest in the nation, I believe. We got 70% increase in homeless, which is one of the highest almost in the world now, I believe, right? Um, Unaffordable housing, like you know, like I said, the closer you go to the beach, we're talking about $3 to $4 million a house, and these are second homes to the rich because they don't even go in that water. If you saw the water that these $3 or $4 million houses are paying to be by, you don't see those people that's going in the water on a daily basis or anything like that. They just want a view, and it's not even worth the price. So most of those houses are Airbnbs now. You know, you see people throwing these big parties and raves on the strand right there, but you don't see the same people throwing the same parties every time you go by the house. That's how you know it's an Airbnb. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the cost of living is so high, and again, the Democrats have done nothing to you know, nothing to, when the loans got out of control and we had the bubble, they bailed them out. They should have been jailing these people, but they, you know, they voted to bail them out because these are their friends. These are their working for. This is
Exactly.
who pays the checks. I made the analogy that when you go to work, right? Do you let your coworker boss you around? Like you may have a supervisor, you may have a manager, but when you have that guy under you trying to tell you how to do your job, what happens? Like, whoa, 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 hey, hey, hey. Like, when you get on my level or whatever, then you can tell me. But you know, that's usually what happens, right? You have to break it down to this person. Like, look, you just can't come in here bossing people around. You know why? Because that person does not write your check. Now, if that person decided to pay you more than the job you worked at, you would listen to what that person had to tell you. Because now, who are you working for? The person
Exactly.
is writing you the fatter check. And
Exactly.
this is the problem with our politics today. You know, they're already making a really good money. They don't have to worry about their health insurance because they're fully covered on our tax money. You know, so in other words, it's not okay for us to pay for our health insurance as a whole, but it's okay for us to pay for their health insurance for themselves. You know, so that's already way off. But again, these are all the policies that they've been writing because of who pulls the strings. That's why we call them puppets. That's why you know Trump. They keep saying, "Oh, he's so dangerous. He has his finger on the button. He's gonna blow up the world." But when Trump asked for military increase, and over 60 something percent of the Democrats wanted to give it to him,
Yeah.
who's crazier? The person that just bought him a button big enough for him to sit on and lay down on, or the guy that's ready to push the button? It doesn't make any sense. It's so backwards. But these are the
Yeah.
people in
No.
charge of our state. These are the people we're trying to replace. And to us, we don't mind replacing them with Democrats that are going to work for us. But at this point, we need to start building a whole other party because we can't depend on the Democratic Party. They're not our saviors. They haven't proven to save anything. They're having trouble beating pedophiles. So you know, like we need to start realizing that the people that are working, the people that are in the front lines, the people that are out there doing the work, we understand what's going on, but they're in a bubble. In the rest of the country, they're mad at Democrats. They're mad at Republicans. They don't even want to hear Greens. You know, they're tired of the whole party. They're tired of the government all in general. They don't even. This is the last thing they want to talk about. Those are the people that are not voting for Democrats. Most of those people are not even voting at all. So how are we going to get them excited?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's so much potential for growth, right? Most people, about half of people, don't even vote, and then those people that do vote, most are not. In California, they're getting to be independents, which means that they want new options. They may want distinctly independent people. Maybe they want a different party, but they definitely don't want more of the same, which is the business party, the Democrats and the Republicans. Yes, they have some differences between them, like mainly on social issues, like abortion, all that. But they are completely united, 100%, on things like the military. Always spending billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars on more nuclear weapons, invading other countries, making sure that we're controlling elections around the world, being pro-Israel, which essentially means being anti-Palestinian people, and so many other foreign policy similarities. And of course, at home, they prefer the privatization drive. So people like Dianne Feinstein, who was just reelected, or will perhaps be reelected, but she won the primary. She likes privatization. She doesn't want the government to be more involved in doing the things that other governments around the world do all the time. And that's kind of the problem. These top Democrats that have been there for a long time, like my opponent, and they are completely controlling the rest of the party. That's why progress is so difficult to achieve in the Democratic Party. Yes, people try, and people should keep trying, but it's very unlikely that it won't work because everything is controlled by those top players. So.
Yeah, Linda Anderson again with a very, very good point. And I don't mean to go as harsh, but I question the integrity of any candidate, whether progressive or not, who chooses to run under the banner of the Democratic Party that committed election fraud. It is important that we do not sweep the corruption under the rug. Election integrity, which aside from the comment, is one of the first things on my proposals that I was running on. Is the most important issue of the day and will not achieve that by getting in bed with those who are denying voters their voice. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it, and the reason I totally agree 1,000% with Linda on this is I have family and friends that fought wars, and I'm lucky to still have them alive today. But if they would have died in the BS that I went through, being a delegate for Bernie and the way that the party treated us, just because we wanted a better future, just because we believed in something, it was ridiculous. It was just ridiculous, and that's what made me just get turned off from the party completely. Like I said, I want to burn it down. I said I want to turn it down, and I do. Because why should we, keep defending the party that at one point even fought for slavery to keep their slaves, right? So I mean, they just have such a bad stigma all the way around that I just don't believe in wanting to save it again. And this is no disrespect to all the reformers. Like I said, I support the reform because to me, I have no respect for the party. Anybody that's in there, they need to go in there with the same respect they gave us, and that's none. So Maria Estrada, the reason why people love her is because she does that. She goes in there and in her territory, they don't like her at all. They want her out, and she won't leave because that's what pisses them off. And she goes in there and she's even suing them. And she's doing stuff to actually get in their skin. And this is what I feel all those delegates that I even at one point left my Green Party and became a Democrat and voted these cadams in. And a lot of them I do not regret because a lot of them they pushed the envelope on election integrity with Kimberly Ellis. So they made me proud. So I do not regret it because it was a strategy move. Because I did say that I would never be a Democrat again. And in the name of the revolution, I did it that one time. But now I'm a committed Green. I'm running as Green, and I'm ready to run again. So my strategy, I will push other people that are not in party, in races or anything like that to do something in that regard. But me myself, I won't do it, especially for the little recognition that we got, because they totally took all this credit and everything, and I don't want any credit, but I told hundreds of Greens, not just in my district, in districts all over California, to come and become Democrats to support our reformers. Those are our guys that are in the party. And those are the only people I work with. Democrats that are actually in there trying to change it up, that are actually against the grain, they'll get my support. But that's as far as I go. I have no respect for a party that has no respect for me. My uncle who jumped out of planes and none. Colin Tennant, who's a veteran caucus, president. You know, these are all veterans. They all got their faces spit on, the graves of their comrades spit on, and I'm still waiting for my vote to count in my own election. The first vote that I get that's not even a provisional ballot, that I had to go to two different polling places to go, and then my first ballot got denied. So this is the BS I had to go through just so I wouldn't get a provisional ballot, and it still didn't count my vote. You think I trust mail-in votes? You think I trust provisionals? You think I trust voting people? You think I trust electoral voting? You think I trust super delegates? You think I trust anybody in any of those parties? You're crazy. You're crazy. And,
Yeah.
I don't mean to steal your show, Rodolfo, but yeah, I know you share this pain.
Yeah, no, I mean, so this is actually kind of the reason why I decided to become a Green. We saw so many election irregularities when Bernie was running. So many at so many levels, people complaining about their ballots or people's registration being wiped out, the exit polls being off, et cetera, et cetera. There were so many problems. And I was shocked that Bernie didn't address any of them. Why did that? How could that occur? I know that he was aware of it. There's no way that he was not. But yet there was this reluctance to engage in that particular way. And I think it may be because, well, you can't call an election into question, said Hillary. That goes against American democracy. That's what she would say. When Trump brought up the idea that maybe it was going to be rigged. But then when, he won, then apparently election integrity became something that we needed to care about, that finally the Democrats started to care about, of course, only in terms of, was it Russia that changed the outcome or something? It was insane. We need to care about those elections because otherwise there's really very limited things that we can do to make sure that we have a functioning government.
One of the things that pisses me off, I'm trying to speak a little louder so people can hear me, but one of the things that really pisses me off is that everybody seems to know that Bernie got rigged. They did it wrong. Everybody, even the Hillary base at this point is agreeing with this, right? But when it comes to Jill Stein, she only got 1%. No, because they wouldn't rig Jill Stein, right? She's not a threat. And we were voting to, because we wanted her, obviously we voted for her because we wanted her to be our president, but if Bernie wasn't going to win, we would really expect Jill Stein to win at this point. We were voting because we knew we had 4 years to build on. Because the Democrats weren't offering proposals, they weren't offering anything. Hillary Clinton took all of Bernie's proposals and watered them down. She even with her version of her proposals, there were lousy versions of his proposals. Like she just totally, disrespected his proposals with their proposals,
Mm-hmm.
But back to what I'm saying is okay, so Bernie can get rigged, but they wouldn't rig Joe Stein, a third-party candidate. No way, no. That's when they all become honest, good little Democrats and Republicans that they don't rig elections against Greens and they never have. But I can scientifically prove this. Before Bernie got rigged, historically, the Green Party had only been on 28 states ballots. Historically, they never got past the 30th threshold, right? After Bernie got rigged, we put Jill Stein on 48 ballots. Nevada even rigged her out of 49. I think that alone, why would we put a person on a ballot in so many states and forget to vote for her? That alone is scientific proof that, you don't work so hard to put someone on a ballot, especially a party that only reached 28 states. And we basically put them on all the states almost.
Right.
Three states that they left us out of,
mm-hmm.
Right? Do you think that's 3% of the vote? Hell no. And then my vote didn't get counted. And everybody that talked to that voted for Joe Stein, almost everybody I talked to tells me they voted for Joe Stein. But when I tell them, hey, have you confirmed their vote? They didn't know that they could. And when they go confirm it, I get a call back saying they didn't count my vote either.
Oh, wow.
So I guarantee that the same reason why my vote didn't get counted, my own vote against my congressional race has not been counted. I mean, I'll go confirm tonight to see if it's been counted since, because more votes have been counted since. But yeah, I'll be really, really pissed off if my vote didn't even get counted on my one race. It was so hard to even get on the freaking ballot for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
we
how
need.
about some single payer?
Gosh, we need that desperately, desperately.
So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for California to get single payer on the map?
Yeah, well, I guess we could go back to what we were saying before. It's very important that I mean, there are a few issues, right, that are becoming hot button issues that we must absolutely rally behind wherever that we can find them. So single payer in California, now in Washington State, it's becoming an issue as well. But we need to get behind it. Sorry, can you post up that comment again? I didn't see it.
Oh, that was about earlier.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was about it.
that
Okay.
was it.
Yeah. So
They just started practicing political medicine, got arrested, and Clinton can't even be accountable for the deaths surrounding her. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing, but I mean,
yeah.
it's so ridiculous that I can't help it. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Seth Rich and all the people that
Mhm.
Lucas, all of them that lost their lives being true patriots of this country, and those are unsung heroes too.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. Well, what in the world is going on that Bernie never mentions all those irregularities? I mean, those are the most horrible things that occurred. Not a peep. He just kept on going. Someone says Bernie was most likely threatened. Mm-hmm.
And that's why he did. Speaking of,
That's quite possible. I mean, you can imagine like someone could say, "Oh, if you don't do this, we're going to remove funding for Vermont in some way." And of course, he would want to protect his constituents. Um, or maybe they would deny him a committee spot or something along those lines. Who knows? But the point of being green is that when you're in the Green Party or any other party outside of the duopoly, I think you have far more freedom to speak your mind about how things truly are, because in the party they have to constantly be saying this person, that person, I support them, just because I'm in a party. Thank you, Javier, Rodolfo Congress. Thank you. So, in the Democrats, we saw this recently with Ro Khanna. I don't know if you saw, but Ro Khanna, endorsed both the establishment and the progressive in an upcoming race that's going to be decided on Tuesday for the Democratic primary in New York. And, he had to do that because, the progressive activists were trying to get him to endorse that progressive, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But of course, his colleagues wanted him to endorse them. So these are the kind of conflicts that are created when you have a hierarchical party like the Democratic Party, where the leader, Nancy Pelosi, tells everyone down below what to do, how to act, what to think, what to say, what not to say. Nancy Pelosi determines all policy priorities in the Democratic Party. Yes, maybe they have a little bit of wiggle room of freedom to introduce this bill, that bill, without consulting her. But she is overwhelmingly the one that decides what happens with the party, she and Chuck Schumer. So this is why I call them a hierarchical party. They climb up the ladders, after years and years and years, and they cozy up with the people above them, and they get all these favors. And so they're compromised, and then, eventually they get to the very top, just like Nancy Pelosi did. So that's where she can decide what to do with the party. That's why she can go up there and say on CNN, let me just say it plainly, we're capitalists, and that's just the way it is. This is, one of her famous recent statements, and that's because she's the leader. She has absolute power over the rest of the Democratic caucus. So that's why we can't have single payer. Back to back to this, it's because she doesn't want it. She has people in San Francisco who are lobbying for new ways to deliver healthcare to people that are all based on just profit-driven motivations. But of course, a single-payer system would end that, which is honestly what we should do. Single-payer is would fulfill one of the promises that we make to our citizens in the U.S. Constitution, right? Like, we need to promote the general welfare. We need to give people life, liberty, although that's the Declaration of Independence. But, the other nations have decided that it's to their benefit to have a working healthcare system that covers everybody. And you know what? That makes total sense, right? If a country's citizens are not worried about getting cancer or getting treatment for cancer, all those healthcare issues that we have to deal with in America, then they can focus on work or their family. They can start a business in some other domain in the economy. They can grow the economy. But here in America, people are constantly afraid of getting sick. They don't go to the doctor. And so that makes them more sick. And so then they misperform at work. Everything just collapses because people don't have that basic security. So yes, we need that single payer. How do you do it? It's honestly not even that hard. It's very simple. It all it requires is a vote from Congress. It requires an appropriations vote. We need to get in there and say, well, we can be the Medicare for All bill that's there right now, or maybe we can make it way better. RodolfoForCongress.com. Thank you, Rosie.
Rosie's our girl, man. First of all, shout out to Rosie Navarro.
Yes.
She is amazing. I will be having her on my show. She doesn't even know it, but she just got invited right now live. What I mean by giving a voice to the voices is that people like her, that she works on his campaign, she works on my campaign. She will do what she can to support her brothers and sisters that are out there, in the front lines. And she's one of our front liners right there herself. And I hope she runs. Rosie, we're ready to door knock for you too. So get out there for us. So we love you, girl. So shout out to Rosie.
Exactly. Yeah, Rosie's amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing, Rosie. Thank you. Yes, we need to get you elected. So
definitely, Rosie got a heart. She'll put one in the machine.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, the single payer issue, it's so ridiculous that we're still having a debate, but thankfully it was as a result of Bernie that now the idea is very popular. Love you too, Rosie. The idea is very popular, and it should be, because healthcare is a human right. It should be considered as such in the legal system, in our healthcare system. All it takes is an act from Congress to appropriate the funds, which means create the money to pay it out, perhaps to a board that then pays out hospitals, etc. And of course, it would create a great opportunity for up and down, right? We would have educational opportunities. We need doctors, we need nurses, we need technicians. A single payer healthcare system. A lot of people might think that, it's government takeover, it's socialism, jobs are going to disappear. No, it's actually going to create a lot more jobs, a lot more opportunities, a healthier society, which will be even better for all of us, right? And now, instead of I know people that are saving up for an operation, so they're right now they're withholding. They're not going out to a restaurant. They're not buying things at the store because there is a particular procedure that's not an urgent procedure, but they need to get it done. So they're just saving all that money to then later give it to the private healthcare insurer to get that operation. But no, we could just provide that money. Congress could provide that money. Yeah, you're exactly right. So if we can't, why do we spend it on war? We can't spend a dime on healthcare for all. That's absolutely right. Yeah. So just a few weeks ago, Congress voted for an increase in military spending. So I think the new figure is like $750 billion for the military this year. That's on top of the other 714 from last year. So that's 1.4 trillion around there. No one really quite knows exactly how much is being spent on the military. It's hard to keep track of it. Congress doesn't even read the bills, etc. But it's like $1.4 trillion or so for the military. And what does that mean? It's for to pay companies money to make new nuclear weapons, fighter jets, etc. It doesn't go for the veterans. It doesn't really go for the.
I was going to make that mention that the veterans, they get all this increase in money, they pocket most of it, and the veterans don't get to see, a good chunk of that. And that's
the veterans. It doesn't really go
just the increase alone would be enough to take care of our veterans. It's ridiculous money that these people are playing with, and these bombers probably cost $100,000 in materials to build. So why are they costing $20 billion to sell them to us with our tax money? Because the architect's going to make a big chunk of that. The lawyers, in these private organized groups that don't even put a screw on that bomber, make so much money just because they were able to come up with the idea and the say so and how to make the money. It's crazy. But I didn't mean to cut you out, but I was going to mention how the veterans really don't see any of that increase.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we just pay them out more and more money to essentially, it's corporate welfare. So we're subsidizing particular types of corporations, particular types of jobs. But it's bad planning all around because we could be there's so many very, very smart people working at these companies where they're making more nuclear weapons, quote, more effective nuclear weapons. So we could be using those scientists to produce things that are actually useful, rather than destructive tools to destroy other countries or ourselves, really. We could be harvesting new forms of energy, exploring the solar system. Instead, I really wish we would go towards that. Instead of spending so much on fighter jets, why are we not spending more on the explorers, the space shuttles, to maybe go to the moon or to Mars? That could be a very important scientific project for us that could be very important for the long-term health of the economy and the species. But yet we're throwing away all the money at the new nukes, quote, better nukes. So it's an obscene situation, especially when we don't even have healthcare for people. And in the same way that Congress can pay for so much money for new nuclear weapons and fighter jets and tanks and missiles and submarines, it could pay for healthcare and education for everybody. That's the straight up truth.
Space military.
Right.
It's hilarious, man. It's like some video game stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And we're here talking about, venturing space, but I mean, we still haven't even solved the problems across the street, right?
Right.
Like, all that military increase could have been a single payer healthcare or free college tuition.
Oh yeah, many times over. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. I think the last calculation was that we could pay tuition-free college for everybody for I think 8 years with the money just from this year's military budget. Now, of course, again, that's not how it works. Money is not a scarce thing, but if you were to do the math, that's how it would work.
You would get 2 college careers out of that.
Yeah.
In 8 years, you could literally have two doctorates. Crazy. I mean. But this is the waste. The money gets pocketed, it gets hoarded. It's not being recycled, and it's losing its worth. But it's sitting in the Cayman Islands, in the Panama, whatever banks that they're hoarding all this money in. It ain't doing any good for us in America. So with this whole digital currencies and stuff that are going on, people are toying these things. This is the inspiration that people are coming to. They're trying to find something else to give value to because they don't feel that they're ever going to be able to have a chance of millions of dollars. That's the dream that's been sold to us since we were little. you can be a millionaire. Well, most people end up chasing this millionaire dream at the end of a lotto line.
Right.
And that's that, obviously that doesn't happen. You know, how many millionaires, we can have $100 billion worth of, jackpot, and you still somehow find the combination of numbers that at least get hit. How can we never have 100 lotto winners with all those people that play? You know what I mean? Like it's always less than five. Like when they're gonna, yeah, if it even goes to five. So
Mm-hmm.
that mathematically is really absurd. They control that. They control the vote. They control everything. So when people say less government, more government, it's not even about that. It's about who's in government.
Yes.
Because the people that are in government are not working for us no more. We need people that are going to take the checks that we write, and that's it. And we need to write laws that doesn't allow them to take any other.
Yep.
Or vote in the direction of any corporation that wants to donate to. If a corporation wants to have a say so in the political process, they need to run one of their maintenance guys or whatever they have in their corporation and take a seat, and that could be their voice. Rather than just buying people out, because now they get to buy multiple candidates, and we're screwed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's why we're screwed right now, right? I mean, they buy everybody all around. I mean, let's just off the top of my own in my own race, Lucille Roybal, she's getting all that money from the military contractors, from AT&T, from Verizon, from McDonald's, from Coca-Cola. These companies are the companies that are making life miserable in Congressional District 40. The military contractors, they hire out factories in the district and those factories then pollute. Coca-Cola and McDonald's are causing obesity rates to skyrocketing kids, and Verizon and AT&T, they jack up those rates, and then people are struggling just to make that those bills. It's an unsustainable situation. So Rasik, sorry, can you put that up again?
Mm-hmm.
If the politicians like Roybal can't perform their jobs, they need to reconsider their career. Since she's not ethical enough, it's up to the people to get her out. Exactly. So, in our system of government, I think we've always known that we have to take matters into our own hands. Otherwise, we're going to be ripped to shreds. If we go back really far back in the history of this country, the British were treating the Americans like dirt. And the American colonists said, well, no taxation without representation, that famous phrase. But then the British came back and said, but you are represented in the British Parliament. Even though they don't elect any people to go on over there to represent you, you're virtually represented because all of the people in Parliament represent everybody in the British Empire. So you are represented. That's why we can tax you. And the colonists said, well, that's bullshit. And honestly, we're at a similar situation today. We have taxation and we have no representation at all. Yep. There's been academic studies from Princeton University. They found that the people essentially have no role to play in policy making. It's the PACs, the political action committees, the rich that have a say in the direction of the government. The people have no say whatsoever. This is a scientific a study. I think there's been several now that basically all conclude that. The people have no say in Washington. I think everyone, a lot of people can agree with that. That's the sense that we all have. That's why the country is up in arms, demanding change. We need to take it upon ourselves. Otherwise, there's really no one else who will, because we're the only ones being affected. It's us versus them. So, we have to say it again. No taxation without representation.
I totally agree, man. Like at this point, we're used to paying taxes over here in California. So at this point, if it at least would work in our favor, if we would get something out of it, then we probably wouldn't feel so bad for being the highest tax state. But Because we're getting pushed out of our homes. We're not making enough to survive. But we don't have single payer healthcare. There's so much stuff that California should be the opposite, and we should be the leaders of innovation. We are, and they're just taking our ideas and profiting off of them, and really not giving back. The profit sharing, it's almost like taboo with these companies. I mean, if we had more companies like what was the yogurt company a few years ago that they had a high profit share. So what they did is the owner, the CEO, got together in this factory, got all his employees, and he gave them stock shares enough to retire on right then and there. And not one single employee left the job. But one, they love working for the guy because he treated them well. So it wasn't just as one thing like I was an asshole to you the whole year, and now I'm gonna make up for it. Here you go. Sorry, guys, thanks for putting up with me. No, he was a good guy to work. They already liked working for the guy. And then he surprises them with this. I want to work longer because they know that the opportunity to make more money is there. They're gonna work harder now because they see the fruit of their labor. And this guy's probably gonna have another record season because now people like me rather go buy his yogurt. It says was it Shinobi? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? CH. I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but I know you know what I'm talking about. The Shinobi. I forget what it.
Chernobyl. Chernobyl?
Chernobyl? No. That's the aftermath of
Oh yes.
Russia, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about
Sorry.
the yogurt.
Oh no, then I don't know.
No, but they had a record share, and he profit shared basically. Is what he did. He said, I made a lot of money. I have all this money. I don't, what am I gonna do with all of that? I can take care of my family, that next family, and the family after that. Why not take care of my corporate family, my working family that made me this? I mean, what a genius, right? It doesn't even seem like that, but like how many other people out there, can just come up with this? Like Disney, on the other hand, is they can probably pay the rent for the whole country on their taxation alone here in California from all the product that comes out of Disney. Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars, all that comes out of Disney. You take all that tax, every Dorito bag out there will have Star Wars on it. You go across the country or in another country, you're gonna see Star Wars on their products too. That's all money is coming into, from California. So why do they have to be so selfish and greedy with the employees? I mean, it's ridiculous. Like people working at Disneyland, it should be a luxurious job to work for them now. They should be making more than the Costco employee there because they make so much money. Ridiculous. We were just talking about $700 for a season pass.
Yeah.
I mean, how many
Yeah,
employees do
no,
they
I
have to
think
take care of in one
yeah,
day?
no, absolutely. No, I think what we need to do is we really need to start doing what I know Japan is famous for doing this. They actually have kind of some regulations on how much a CEO can earn relative to a regular worker. Right in America, I think I saw the latest statistic. I think it's like 1 to 353. That's the ratio. So that's income inequality is so bad over here because we've allowed the bosses, the CEOs, to take home essentially all the dough. So no, we need to profit share. In Japan, and in Germany, it gets down to like 1 to 7. So that CEOs only make up to 7 times or so more than regular employees. And I know some U.S. cities have actually tried to implement this at the local level. Like I think Portland is trying or tried. To get some sort of limit. I'm not sure how successful they've been at it, but we need something like that.
I've actually touched this subject. It's something that I refer to it as maximum wage, but you bring that up, you call it maximum wage, and people go, "Oh no, not in America! No, we set the limit, breaking glass ceilings, everything at you." But look, maximum wage, as crazy as governmental as that sounds, as overbearing as it sounds, there's actually not a limit. You put your own limit on it, and the way it works is the way I was trying to talking to some of the people that I was coming up with my proposals with. I told them, I go, look, for example, let's say the bottom line at your corporation makes $10 an hour, just to keep the numbers simple, right? So Rodolfo, you're the maintenance guy. I'm like, and I'm not trying to pick on you because you're Latino and calling maintenance is it's not nothing like that. I'm just saying, maintenance, car pusher, whatever it is, in my corporation, you're the bottom of the barrel and pay at $10 an hour, right? And I'm your CEO. So the maximum wage, the way we worked it out is that you wouldn't be able to make more than 30 times your minimum, minimum $10. So that's $300 an hour. A lot of money, right? So let's say uh, you wanted to make $600 an hour. Now, even though we call it a maximum wage, it doesn't mean that you're stuck at $300 an hour now. No, you can make $600 an hour, but what would you have to do in order to accomplish that? Your bottom line would get the raise of $20. Because if you want to double your maximum wage, you'd have to double your minimum, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now what you're doing is you're forcing the company to profit share, right?
Right.
So you're making it, you're getting all this money, and as you're getting it, you're giving back to your company. You're not giving them your whole company. You're giving them a piece that they deserve, and getting them more excited. Now you want to make more money, give a little bit more money to your workers, watch the production increase. It's how it works. It's simple. Like, if someone hasn't received a raise for a company that they worked for 5 years or longer, I guarantee their work habits are not going to be the same that they were 5 years before.
Right.
Guaranteed. Once your workers start feeling unappreciated, and that's what corporations have been successful at doing. They let you know that you're easily replaceable. That your moral value really goes down depending on these companies that you work for. There's only a handful of them that actually will stand out above them. Like I work for Costco, and I'll honestly say they're one of the few that stand above the corporate crowd, even though their their stock shares are flying up there, and their shareholders are demanding more. They want less pay for us, more for them. So this is where Costco stands up as a good company and defends their employees. Treats their employees great because in return the employees treat the members
Exactly.
great, and
Yeah.
everybody talks highly about Costco, right? Everybody loves Costco. Everybody has a Costco story So it just shows that that kind of business mentality works. You treat the people that make you good, and they're gonna make you better. Simple philosophy.
Yeah. No. I wish that yeah, that we hadn't somehow allowed this culture of unlimited greed to just take over the entire country. I mean that, yeah. I mean now kids just are oftentimes taught, get ahead, no matter who you have to step on, to just get ahead. And if someone is ahead of you, um, you have to take them out somehow. You have to shine brighter. That's the at least in a lot of segments of American society, that's how people operate, and it's getting us nowhere. We're literally killing the planet as a result of it. Companies like, well, the oil companies, they go out there and pillage, and they want more and more resources. They want cheaper and cheaper oil. They're trying to beat the other ones, to the new oil fields, or if they're recently discovered. And where does that get us? It gets us to a hotter planet where it's tougher for humans to survive, and where these companies could be spending that money researching new different ways to provide alternative fuels, right, for us, and to try to better positive future. But instead, they're so wrapped up in getting that profit from the rest of us, from who drive cars and everything else, that they're trying to get as much as the raw natural resources as they can. So literally the mindset of go compete, like British Petroleum and Chevron and Shell, they're all going at it as hard as they can. That they are literally not just upping each other, they're destroying the world in the process.
Oh yeah, for sure. Speaking of destroying the planet, how's the water situation over in your district? You guys having any issues with the brown water and stuff? We're starting to hear more and
Yeah.
more stories of it involving in California, and some of the stories are actually longer than Flint, Michigan. I've been working real closely with the Compton issue, so I've been discovering more and more stuff. We actually were able to get someone from the board there to get they've been demoted because they did a false protest at the last town hall, and they basically got caught out. I mean, we were able to prove that they were linked. So just curious because the pipes in that area are 70 to 80 years old, and the reason why I've also taken so much passion into the involvement of this because I want to figure out how to fix it the fastest way possible. Because if their pipes are 70, 80 years old, this is our neighboring district between me and you. You know, we both share boundaries with this district, you know, the
Yep.
Compton area, right? So I'm pretty sure most of our pipes are not that much younger. So I'm just curious if you've heard of any water issues going on in your district, and are you be prepared if you start hearing about them? You know, like what are your goals and tactics?
Yeah. So the water issue is becoming, it's going to be a huge upcoming issue all throughout Los Angeles because we are actually all, for the most part, living with those pipes. Those pipes that were laid down as a result of the New Deal. Um, they were laid down, they're 70, 80 years old or so, and they have a lot of problems. And yes, recently in the 44th district, represented by Nanette Barragan, we got some dirty water there, but it's not the first time dirty water has come out in Los Angeles. Yes, in Congressional District 40, ours we have in the northern region. There's a lot of industrial pollution, and especially in the community of Maywood. Water comes out brown very often, as well as in Cudahy and Bell and Huntington Park, in Boyle Heights a little bit, Kenneth Mejia's district in East LA. It's an extremely polluted area. It's unclear why the water comes out brown as it does. But one of the reasons is that this is one of the oldest areas of Los Angeles. So, of course, the water pipes are old and in need of repair. So that's got to be one of our biggest priorities in Congress. Just as Congress could fix our healthcare crisis by passing a bill to say, here's the money for this for healthcare, they could do, here's money to replace the pipes. You know, just like they said, here's money for new bombers. They could, then $1.4 trillion in the last 2 years for the military, for bombers, for fighter jets, etc. So a tiny amount of that could probably pay to replace all of the water pipes in Los Angeles. We must do it.
I haven't even brought this up to you. I've been kind of quiet on it because I still want to finalize more details with these guys. But I've actually met these guys that are, because we were talking, I was campaigning and I was telling them about my proposals and I was talking about I have an idea for water conservation, in case of an earthquake, an emergency, or these droughts that we've been getting, an extra source of water that we can have at all times whenever we get into these rains with water. And then I was thinking, me, I'm always thinking creative, thought, right? And I said, what if we design some kind of dome with solar power that heat it up and condense water, drip, and run it through a hydration system? And then the guy started like, bro, we already doing that. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, me and my team, like, so I literally got in contact with some guys that emitted water from the sun, solar powered water. So we create the heat, we put it in, and literally what I was vision, these guys are already doing. And this is how the conversation came up. And we're like, oh my God. So literally now I'm trying to get more of a relationship with these people because I want to know how we can implement, because these guys are designing machines that can do 500 gallons of water overnight. One unit can do 500 gallons of water overnight without using any of our resources but the sun.
Huh.
Not even electricity. So these guys, and the thing is that most of our laws are designed to stop something like this. Like I don't think we're even allowed to store water, right? Or there's a limit on how much you can actually store, or they always push that you can't because they don't want you using your own water. Like,
Right.
if you have a filtration system, you collect the rainwater, and your water is probably cleaner than anything they're offering. Why aren't you allowed to have filthier water? because then you're not going to a doctor who's profiting on you being sick of the unhealthy water
Exactly.
because they don't want to give you
Exactly.
single payer, right? So everything kind of adds on into a profit cycle. We recycle ourselves into this profit marketing scheme. We have commodities that make us feel better than everybody else, and in reality, we're destroying everybody and ourselves at the same time. So this is why I invited Rodolfo on the show today, because he's a regular human being like me and you. He's not wearing these suits. He's not trying to portray something he's not. And trust me, he'll wear his suits when the time comes, and I'm sure he'll look great in this suit. He's a good-looking guy. But at the same time, this is not why we're voting for these people. If your candidate is on TV and you voted for him, shame on you. You know how much money it costs to be on television? And you voted for a guy that can afford that when he could have used that money to feed the homeless and not even run for office? I mean, seriously, if your guy is on TV, trust me, he's not one of ours at all, at all. So, I mean, my congresswoman has not debated in decades. I brought the first debate into our district in about 20 years. So it just shows that these people feel they own these seats, they're entitled to these seats, and they don't even have to fight for them. They just buy them. The person I lost to, top two, raised $300,000. And all he did was put his name and his face on bus stops everywhere. And if you look on his Facebook, every picture that he has, it's not one single person in my district. It's always Republican congressmen, and he went all and toured the whole country to raise his money just to put his face on bus stops. And you're wondering why Maxine blew you out. You had $300,000, and you got 11,000 votes. I had 3,400,000. I had $3,400. Half of it went to ballot access, and I still got almost 2,000 votes. And I'm probably gonna clear 2,000 if you count these votes. But imagine what I would have done with 34,000. I would definitely defeated you for top two, and I would have challenged Maxine a real challenge because obviously this district's too blue. They were too scared to vote Republican once they saw once they saw your billboard and they Googled who you were. That's the reason why you got blown out the water, Omar. My political advice to you is instead of writing your Latin name that you're so ashamed of, go out there and actually shake someone's hand. So again, that was just an example of what happened in my race and who I was up against. Rodolfo, most people in this district don't even know the guy is up. So if Rodolfo comes in there and he just tells them his platform would actually work in his district, and if we have people out there knocking on doors and letting we make Rodolfo famous because we want Rodolfo to work for us. We don't want to give him money so he can go get a commercial and then later on he can get bought out by somebody else. No, we want to give him money because he wants to work for us. So the idea is if you only have $5 to give him 6. Really, because this guy's working really hard. I ran a campaign. I know what it's like to do this as a regular folk. They don't make it easy because they don't want us to represent ourselves because we care about us. We've gone through the struggle. We know the pain. We've been served eviction. We know this stuff. That's why we're out here fighting. But if they don't put us in there, we won't have the solutions that'll work for you. So that's why it's important for us to get a little further. One, it's a historical race. First of all, how old are you, Rodolfo?
I'm 30.
You're 30. So, we get a young guy, a green, in there. So it's historical because him and Kenneth have an opportunity of being the first green in Congress. So we'd be making history in that part. But who cares about making history when we can actually rewrite it in a way that we can actually be proud of by putting a guy like Rodolfo and Kenneth in office? Because these are the guys that are out there actually shaking their hand. They're out there knocking the doors. They're out there meeting their actual district. They don't have all the resources that the money brings, but they're doing stuff that the money can't buy, and that's why it's important to support them. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and give it a some speech here. Get everybody in your district. Tell them why they will not regret voting for you.
Thank you, Miguel. Everyone who's watching and everyone who may watch later. I'm running in essentially East and Southeast Los Angeles County. I'm doing it because the district has someone who is not doing at all in any kind of way a good job. She is removed from the community, both in terms of money and in terms of location. She lives at Lake Arrowhead. The community is struggling. It's the poorest community, poorest district, least high school graduation attainment in the entire state. It's an area that is hurting deeply, and therefore needs a change. What will be very important about going forward, the path going forward, is that there are corporate-free candidates running. So myself, Maria Estrada, are running to represent the area, and we're doing it, because there's really no other way to try to fight for the community unless we have a whole groundswell of changes, which could happen. But as of right now, we're just trying the best we can to knock on as many doors as possible, because the people that have represented this area do not have the best interest of the community at heart. I've already given the example of the military contractors. They spend money in this area with the factories that are there, and what do the factories do? They pollute. So kids are getting killed. Entire families have cancer and have died because of the extreme pollution in this area. And that happens because these factories exist. And where do the factories get their money to exist? They get it from the Pentagon, essentially. Where does the Pentagon get its money? It gets it from my opponent and all the rest of them who are willing to vote these obscene military budgets into existence. Just 700 billion in the last 2 weeks, adding to the 700 billion from last year, $1.4 trillion from military spending. That goes for making the nuclear weapons, for making the fighter jets. Where is that made? It's usually made right in America's backyard, where factories pollute. So we're harming our own society. We're killing our own kids as a result of all the pollution that is necessitated by the military-industrial complex. And then what do? We export that destruction to other societies. So it's a horrible situation, and we must overcome it. We can overcome it if we rally behind corporate-free candidates. Here in this area of Los Angeles, it just happens to be myself and Maria Estrada, and Kenneth Mejia is running right next door on over. So we have to be triumphant. Otherwise, the things will just simply get worse. And worse here means a lot of deaths for the community, given the lack of healthcare combined with the extreme pollution. It's not a pretty picture. So hopefully you can support our campaigns. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so you heard it from him himself, but as someone who ran and is really grateful for my race and all the few people that supported and got out there with me and knocked on doors, and I'm sure anybody that comes out there to help out Rodolfo, I mean, you don't understand how valuable those sources are, and how much we appreciate the people that come out there. Like, I mean, when I ran, I told Kenneth I didn't want his people to come over and I didn't want to take any of his volunteer base. I wanted to help. I wanted to build my own volunteer. I wanted to prove myself as a candidate that I can motivate, I can inspire, I can get people excited. And it's tough because the people that we're trying to motivate and get excited are the people that are just so disenfranchised with politics. Period. They're too busy working to get involved. They're too busy. The people we represent that really want to come out there and help, they also are limited on time and capacity and funds. So many of the donations come out from outside of this, because people want these passes to get on board and start getting better. But people stop believing in our races because they see what happens with other races, and that's the biggest no-no. Like right now, the Rodolfo is not that far behind his incumbent. You know, if we go out there and we knock on doors and we talk to everybody in that district, we can call. I don't know if you have any phone banking set up.
I do have phone banking set up. Yeah, so if anyone is interested in phone banking, just go to my
Put the
website.
link on there.
Or donate. There's a little tab that takes you to volunteer, so you can sign up to volunteer if you like the phone bank.
Please add the link before we get off. Go ahead and type it on there in the comments. Or if I put it up.
Sure.
But, donate, phone bank, hold a sign up for this guy. Do whatever you can. He's my slave brother. If he gets in, it's a win for me because we all been we've been through so much together, and it's ridiculous the stuff we got to go through just because we want to do the right thing for people. For this, so Rodolfo, I love you, brother.
Love you,
You're
man.
part of my family. My political family. It's huge, but
Yes.
some of us have been writing together for a long time, and you're one of them. So, I mean, I wish you the best of luck in this race. I'm going to be out there with you on more than one
Thank you.
occasion. You know that for sure. And I
Thank you,
hope to see
Miguel.
more people come out there and support this guy. Because this, again, if you, it's green, this and that, or we never have greens in office, we'll make it happen. Stop making up excuses for not wanting to work for a political revolution that doesn't belong to a party. It belongs to us as a whole, as people. If we don't, if we keep allowing parties to divide us, we keep allowing people to divide us, anybody to divide us, and we're never going to work together. We're never going to win. And look who's working together. The people that have been able to convince us that we need them. And we need them out. We need people like us in there. So Rodolfo, thank you so much for breaking in my show. It was supposed to be a
Thank you for
1 and a half.
having me.
We went
Thank
half
you.
an hour over, but that's what happens when you actually have ideas, issues, and proposals to tackle, and you're not just going around pointing at your company and saying how much of a sweetheart he is or she is, right? So, thank you for coming on board and showing people that just because he's not famous, just because he's not on TV, or just because he's not making that kind of noise, doesn't mean that he's not the guy for the job. You see he has the credentials, you see he has the mindset, and you see he has ideas and concepts, and he's open to yours. Reach out to him, send him an email, send him $50,
Yeah.
and let him know how you can contribute to his campaign. I mean, we're going to be working on Maria Estrada's campaign. We hope she comes out and supports, Rodolfo and his too. I'm sure she will. She's always been a fighter like that. We've always been working together. It's a big family, and we hate to get it broken up because of the same rules that we're fighting against. So that being said, thank you all for coming on board. Thank you everybody that came out tonight
Thank you.
and supported us in my first show, Revolutionaries. We're not dropping bombs. We're dropping mics, and this is what it's about. It's about giving a voice to the voiceless. And once we give that voice to the voiceless, and it represents us, then we will finally be heard. Imagine that. Don't you want to get heard? So vote for Rodolfo Cortes Barragan in District 44?
40, 40.
40. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
Just 40. Yeah.
40. District 40. And let's get this guy in office, man. Let's get our first green in there. Kelly Mejia's gonna need some help. Because we gotta get him in there too. If we all get together and work for him as hard as we do for these two, it's only 3 candidates in LA, guys. The whole LA unit, you should at least be working for 2 out of these 3 candidates, and you should be working for that third option as much as you are working to reform the party. Those are the two biggest goals. If you're progressive, if you're a true progressive to the word, you wouldn't let a party divide the concept of getting progressive issues on board and fixed, and just supporting a progressive regardless of their party. So that being said, Rodolfo Cortes Barragan, District 40, is getting him in November 6th. He's our, is it 6th or 5th?
6.
6th. November 6th. I was right. And thank you for supporting my show, Revolutionaries. Tuesday I got Sam Bam, a volunteer activist, super volunteer for Kenneth, activist on all the issues right now. He's huge on the immigrant family separation. And he's gonna have a few things to say here about it, and also show you why he's involved as a volunteer activist, so you can get some ideas and get inspired too. And that being said, much love. We love you all. and keep fighting the good fight. The political revolution continues, and the resistance is here. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Thank you all.